Yeah, how many of you are the infra building? So a lot of this.
So I guess very shortly we're gonna have Joey, who's the co-founder of Standing Labs, as well as Edith, who's the general partner of Raise Capital. He's gonna be doing a little fireside chat with us. So if I can invite you to head in. So we're going to be starting a fireside chat session in 2 minutes. So if I could just get everybody to just head inwards so that we can commence the session. Thank you for waiting, everybody. So on stage we have Joey, who spoke to us previously, from the co-founder of Standing Labs, as well as Edith, who is the general partner of Raise Capital. And yeah, so how is it? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So for this fireside chat, so let me first introduce Edith. So Edith is one of my best friends. And then she is the general partner from the Raise Capital. And the Raise Capital is a very famous, top 10 powerful crypto investment for a lot of early stage. For example, she's the seed investor for the Solana, Agora, and then the Lightning Network, and more than 60 startups. It's very good. So I think she will have a lot of founding investments and then for the AI and then for the Web3. So I think today we will have a lot of experience to share with each other. Yeah, let's welcome Edith.
Thank you for having me.
So I think my first question is about, so you do a lot of investment and then to navigate through a lot of different market situation and circles. So I just want to know, over the past years, what kind of notable change and developments have you identified for especially for the US Web3 investments, or what's the changing, and then how that impact your investment strategy or approach?
Joey, I love being here, hanging out with you and the Standing Lab team, so thank you for having me. This year, probably one of the worst years in terms of venture and Web3 and everything else in between. Just to put things in perspective, in particular on Web3, in 2021, 30 billion been invested in crypto and Web3. 2022, another 30 billion. This year in 2023, 5 billion. So we're talking about 80% dropped. So that's not a whole lot of things go around, unfortunately. But it's not just Web3. Overall venture also have dropped quite a bit from over, I think, almost $350 billion. This year, it's only 174 billion. And out of the 174 billion, 40 billion went to AI. So exactly what Michael Tom talked about earlier. AI is definitely very exciting, really, really hot. But think about it, right? Even for the 40 billion, 10 billion went to OpenAI. So whatever that's left in the 30 billion is not, it's almost sort of like AI is the new Web3. And if I like telling story and analogy, it's almost so that the OpenAI and Anthropic stability are the layer one of AI in some sense, right? Who's going to be the next Ethereum or Solana, we don't know. But yet there's definitely a lot of exciting things that sort of dropped up. So that's sort of theme number one in terms of investment trend and thesis. Number two, particularly related to Web3 in the US, is definitely a very big cloud, regulatory cloud. Have a lot to do with, from the three arrows to Luna to FTX. The FTX court case is actually going to start in about a month. So typical US, it takes a long time to actually bring everything to court. But because of that, for this whole year, there's a lot of sort of uncertainty around regulatory compliance. And I can tell you a lot of the Web3 startups and fellow partners in the US just feel very gloom and doom, and doesn't seem like the US government is very friendly to crypto at all. So for me coming here, I have a very opposite feeling. It seems like there's at least hundreds of people here already excited about building in Web3. That is so not the case in the US. And I actually have companies, American companies, and startup and team are thinking about moving to Asia. Could be the Hong Kong, Singapore, or Dubai. So these are some of the hotspots. So it's been a really strange year. I think overall, I'm still bullish on Web3 and the future and the decentralization, but this year has been quite strange.
So that's why I just talking with some friends say, oh, right now it was the bearish market, but still there was a lot of active builder here. So this should be the true love and true builder. Because I think even in this bad situation, only the true builder will really still doing something. Right? So I think even for an investor, you have just crossed a lot of different markets. So what's the different strategy for investment in the bullish market and the bearish market?
I think that it's great to be an investor right now. Of course, many of you are builders and founders. It's definitely not what you want to hear. But having said that, if you think about it, to put things in perspective, 2022 and 2021, and in my industry, most of the funds last about 10 years. And usually the investment period is the first 3 to 5 years, which means that from the Paradigm to Andreessen to Han Ventures, all of these guys have raised almost more than $1 billion in funding. And even though, as I mentioned earlier, this year is only $5 billion overall worldwide, but there's a lot of dry powder. But the investor is actually very slow, have a lot to do with because they know that, the market is so down, they're waiting to see what's going on in terms of valuation. This morning is kind of sad. I was talking to a founder, Web3 gaming founder, unfortunately couldn't launch in 2022. Now doing a Series B. The last valuation was 65. Now they have to cut more than half. So definitely doing a down round. But you know what? When, as you said, worst time is the best time to build, and it's all about survival. And it's really, like we basically tell all our founders is that if you can't cut costs, and you know what, I'm still fairly optimistic. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2013, and I don't know how many times we have seen this play out again and again. I do think that it will come back. There's some prediction, but please don't call me up on it. A lot of things sometimes it's driven by the US, and the presidential election is going to be November next year, and there are definitely talks around things hopefully will slowly come back after the presidential election. But you know what? I think crypto market and sort of Web2 market, let's go hand in hand. And this month already ARM, Instacart, Klaviyo, these are 3 IPOs going to go up soon. And if they do well, hopefully things will pick up again.
That's good. And then, as I know, there's risk capital is more focused on the infra, right, investment. So, but here you say that I just do a survey. So a lot of people, they are just building their games and dApps. It's more like the application level, right? So I think, do you have any suggestion in this kind of market situation? So for all the builders, especially for the application, how to select reliable or robust infra, because I think you have a lot of experience to evaluate or just to make decision whether the infra is good or not. Because sometimes you find, oh, we use the infra as the fundamental for our application, but that project has disappeared or they fail, right? So I think, so from your point of view, how to just measure or evaluate the infra?
If you are game developers, I would definitely go talk to Michael Tong, who just gave a presentation, because I learned so much from him from gaming. So definitely go talk to him, because in some sense, if you're building gaming infrastructure, you really wanted to build on people who actually understand gaming. I think the hardest thing is I'm obviously very biased towards Solana. They more or less started with a lot of use cases around DeFi. And gaming is new art to Solana, even though they are trying very hard. But I think like the key thing for everybody is when you're picking and selecting an L1 to build on, it's a combination of just how much support can you even get. I think in the past, a lot of the L1 would give out grants, but money is not enough. Just because, you know what, like let's say you get 500,000 or 1 million token, you know what, it doesn't worth as much as of today, so it's not enough. So at the end of the day, it's really about, and then also the number of wallet active users that actually are using this particular L1, how much like actually enough use of that protocol for you to even sort of steal their user to your game. So at the end of the day, if you're building application, particularly your game developers, the KPI or metrics that you need to focus on is really no different from building a Web 2 game, which is, you know what, if you're on mobile, the only thing that's really matter, what's your install base, what's your MAU, DAU, what's your churn, how much time like each of the gamer actually spend on this. Don't focus too much on, pick a layer 1 that is, solid, has been around, at least like the top 10 on the CoinMarketCap token list. So you know they're not going to die at least. But the key thing really is, if your game is really good, it's really the game or the application that drive the L1, not the other way around. So hopefully, this is not, I know it's not really like great and dandy and happy, but I think at the end of the day, all of us is here to try to survive.
It's the true reality, and this is a valuable suggestion. And then I think today's topic is about the growth and the infra, right? So I think the whole day is from the GrowthCon, which is talking about we want to onboarding the next billion users to the Web3 market. And then I think even for the games or the dApps, they're more focused on the user side, right? But for infra, it's more for the builders. So I think, so what's the difference for the user acquisition strategy or to do the growth? Because you have to invest a lot of infra company. So how do they do? Because I think the strategy may be different from the 2C customer is more.
Yeah, so at Raise Capital, we focus on doing pre-seed seed. We write checks anywhere from $500,000 up to $5 million on a lot of infrastructure software, means open source, open core developers tools. And it really depends on question number 1. We usually ask, do you want to open source or not? The way that I would describe to the GitHub is almost sort of like an app store for developers. And these days, to drive, let's say, be very practical about it, if you talk to an investor, some of the investors, even including ours, you may or may not have revenue yet, but yet, if you have amazing sort of lot of like GitHub star or a lot of people who is using your open source code, is a great indication. We have, let's say for example, we invested in this company, is an open source Google Analytics alternative. They have 4.5 million download on GitHub. It's crazy. And we found the developers, he was embedded in Adobe, and then we invested in him and helped him to incubate into the company. And so that's one way to, like if you're open source. But if you're not open source, and being very developer focused, sometimes we sort of joke around, but it's not a joke really, we also invested in Databricks. So Databricks is a classic example of from Spark on GitHub and open source to commercialization. So at the very beginning, it's all about getting logo. That's sort of a lingo. is can you actually be able to do some basic BD, business development and partnership, and like Sending Lab, right? So now you have over 30 games that is using the Sending like social network that embed in the games. Amazing. You don't necessarily need to be monetized yet, but it's really all about getting an early supporter to start using your stuff so then you can actually improve. So that also is to getting as many logos as possible. I think early, particular for developers, is not, I think most investors, at least up till Series A, are okay for no monetization. But none of these are, you don't magically invent monetization. It's always sort of either subscription or usage or it's nothing new. But it's really about getting as many, in your case, game developers on Sandview as much as possible to get to the point where you turn things on. So
That's good. And so I think for a lot of infra builder and co-founders, I think a lot of them the developers is very geeky or even sometimes it's kind of very nerd. So they're more focused on the technology or building, keep building and building, right? And I think the user growth is very important. So from your point of view as an investor, I think you're not only just investing, but will help them and grow with them together. So how can you just help them and then to especially to set up a new growth team or what kind of character for this kind of growth hacker, so to help them to build a whole team.
I think first off, if you're counting on me to do growth, I probably should invest to begin with. And don't get me wrong, I get it. Like if a lot of the Web3 and crypto projects started with on Discord, like some of the people who are on your Telegram or Discord and Twitter following, is good, I guess. But at the end of the day, if you do application, it's really the true people, the active users who's using your stuff is the most important. Growth hacking, there's no like a bullet. I remember, so how Joey and I met was we both worked on Dolphin browser before. I don't even remember, we launched from Android to iOS. And one of the things that we did was, you know what, we were guessing maybe the Android user will also wouldn't mind winning an iPhone. So what we did was we actually have people to first download the iOS app and then have them tweet to enter a little raffle, tweet to win, and then we randomly pick the tweet, and then whoever that win that we pick, they win a free iPhone. It's a gimmick, but the first week we drove 1 million installs in a week. I was so excited. This many years ago, and I don't think that with like marketing campaign, it's not one trick pony. You really need to be creative to kind of think harder about your target users. What do they want? By nature, Web3 is so much about free token or airdrop. It does help a little bit to drive initial, but I think for all the fellow founders, what you need is not step 1. You need to think about step 2, 3, 4, 5. If you get free airdrop from day 1, there's going to be a spike, but it's not enough. What exactly are you going to do, step 2 or 3, for them to keep coming back again and again? This varies. It will be different, depends on what you work on.
So I think thanks for this really just valuable suggestion, because I really see a lot of founders or new team, they just throw the money to the water because they just, we do marketing, we need to spend money and then to do a lot of airdrop and something. So I think how to do them really growth hacking, we will have a lot of experience. So I think raise capital really can help them to.
Thank you for the advertising.
Yeah, to do that. So I think if you to invest the team, whatever it is, the infra or the applications, so what kind of the common character for the founders or the team, so for you to evaluate or to measure, so what kind of this the team would be most likely to invest?
I can give a couple of examples. I think I really admire Anatoly, who's the founder of Solana. I mean, even till today, like they will have a weekly call and talk about DeFi, and he has like 10,000 different ideas. I think particularly if you work on sort of the layer one, more on the protocol level, you see a lot of the typical founders are very, very, very active on their own community. They don't hire a third person to pretend to be you to answer questions, or it's literally most of the open source founders. They are listening. They are. Sometimes I'm thinking, like, do you even have time to code? You tweet so much, but they really pay attention and listen to their community on, like, fix certain bugs, complain, and deal with a lot of these. Really, is a lifestyle. It's a full-time job. I don't think any marketing or events or campaign gonna beat the actual founder, really participate and have one-on-one combat and conversation with the individual developer to really grow. That's really the most important.
Yeah, I think this kind of event is more important for us. That's why a lot of people with social there, they want to just find some good partners or even the co-founding team. So I think we also have a Sending Me community group. So I think if you can just join it, download our apps, maybe you can find more partners and maybe more talents want to join your company or your project. So I think all the time is up. So finally, do you have any other suggestion or some advice you want to share with our viewers?
I think last but not least, one of the biggest common mistake is if you're thinking about raising money, and what I see quite a bit, particularly for Asian founders, they like to say, hey, I'm raising like $2 million. This is what I'm going to do. Investors actually don't, it's not that I don't care what you do with the money. I care more about the goals and the milestone that you're trying to do with the money you're going to raise. So if you just raise a little bit of seed, you're thinking about the next round, I'm going to raise $1 million. What I would like to know is, guess what? With this $1 million, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to quadruple your user base? Are you not? I mean, it's a given that you're going to hire an engineer and designer, but if you don't even know how to do that, I mean, I'm really worried. But what I really wanted to know is the raise, whatever you raise for, is for what? And be very, very clear about the milestone within a certain time, and that's what you're raising for.
Thank you.
For that, thank you.
Thank you so much, Joey and Edith. So up next, we have our next panel for today. So for the next panel session, we'll be discussing about unveiling the next gen killer games. So let me just quickly introduce our panelists. So firstly,